Greetings, fellow Nephilim. Here we are. Another year has transpired, and we are again back at our Thanksgiving special, where we get to go back and look on all the things that we might be thankful for, all the new update and content that's been revealed, everything to look forward to in the next year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a new show where we ask the question, aren't you thankful? Again. And of course, joining me here tonight is my lovely co-host, Leviathan.
What's going on? I'm so thankful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Why, thank you for being here. I am most thankful to have you on the show.
Thank you. That's really sweet of you.
No, thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot, bud.
Shucks, it's nothing. Thanks for being my friend.
Thank you for being a friend.
Okay, I'm stopping this now.
All right, good.
Stop it!
Thank you for stopping it.
God damn it.
I actually meant that sincerely.
No, you didn't. No. I can tell that there was no thankfulness in that one. You were doing that on purpose.
Oh my god.
Anyways, here we are. We're talking about Diablo.
Again?
Yeah.
The day before Thanksgiving. It seems like Thanksgiving always lands on a day after our show.
I know, it's so strange. Thanksgiving just keeps on being like on a Thursday. It's just, I don't know how we keep on lucking out on that one. You know, this actually, I was looking at the calendar and I only got so far until I thought it was a conspiracy, but did you know for the next 5 years Thanksgiving would fall on the day after the show?
Really?
Yeah, I think it might continue afterwards. I just stopped looking because it's like a conspiracy.
5 years. So maybe that's another sign pointing to them skipping D4, going straight to D5.
You know, Microsoft did it.
Yeah, it's all the rage.
And they skipped my number.
Which number is that?
9.
9?
9? But yeah. So, sorry. Not sorry for that opening at all.
It's just our usual antics. They're all used to it by now, right?
I hope so. And for the new users that, aren't used to it, well, that's just the beginning.
Oh yeah, you'll have much more to be thankful for.
Yeah, sure. and if you're thinking in your head right now, if this is your first time listening or watching the show, and you're thinking in your head, man, those guys are dicks, then you need to keep listening. Because that is exactly what we want.
Yep, you're in the right state of mind.
Mm-hmm. What a dick.
So tell me, sir, what gaming antics have you been up to besides our meme antics here?
Yes. Stopping with the in-jokes for a little bit and moving on to somewhat serious news. I haven't been doing all that much. I continue to put maybe like an hour or two a day into my Witch Doctor. I'm closing in on completing my Helltooth set. I'm just missing, I think I need the gloves and the bracers. I actually have lucked out, and my season luck is about the same as it was last season. It took me forever to get like an ancient weapon as it normally does, but then it was the I can't remember the name of it now, but the dagger that allows me to stack Soul Siphon up to 10 stacks.
Oh yeah, I forget the name of that thing too.
Yeah, but it's the one that pretty much most of the Witch Doctor builds, revolve around either having that equipped or having it in the cube. And since it's ancient and relatively decently rolled, I just haven't had any gifts drop for me yet. I'm on a good track. I just need the bracers now for the defensive buff that it gives, completing the Helltooth set, and then I'm ready to rock and roll on the starting to get the higher end of the seasonal journey, because I think I've only finished Slayer, and I'm kind of stuck from there because I'm having a hard time pushing above Greater Rift 50. And just I'm without those bracers, I'm too squishy. My health gets chunked so quick.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting for Witch Doctors. I feel like they need to have, some classes and setups. I feel like they can kind of bootleg their way, like, I'm missing my bracers, but I can kind of sort of still do this because I have the power, to just kill stuff potentially before it gets to me. Mostly thinking of like your UE DHs out there. But yeah, I feel like Witch Doctor in particular, I guess just because you need to keep some proximity with the mobs, that you do put yourself in danger from time to time.
Yeah, especially with the Spirit of Eric here that I'm running right now. Just basically kind of like doing fire bats and angry chicken. I'm right up there, close and personal with them. I have a pretty decent gold pickup radius. Don't have Thing of the Deep, but I think I've got 6 or 7 yards on my pickup radius, so my swampland attunement does help out significantly. But yeah, it's still it does so. The enemies hit you for so hard when you don't have that extra set of defense. And that's one of the things that you were mentioning with the UE Demon Hunter. They get like with the Witch Doctors, you only get the 50% damage reduction from the sets. With the UE Demon Hunter, it's 60, 70?
Yeah, I think it's 60 now.
Yeah, that extra little 10% actually is a noticeable difference in how much it hits you for.
That's true. You are correct. Oh, looks like a Sacred Harvester. That's what we're trying to think of.
Oh, there we go. Sacred Harvester.
Saved by the chat.
Yep.
So, I was wondering though, where are you on stash tabs? Because this technically, for everyone who has been keeping up with their seasonal journeys, this is the last season that they need.
Yep, I am one behind. Yeah, because everything that happened during last season, I completely missed it. I don't want that to happen again this season, and I'm expecting a somewhat early end to this one.
Yeah.
That will probably end the beginning of January. So I have about a month left to do it, which should be plenty of time. Just have to get it. Yeah, just have to dedicate a little bit of time every day to working on it. Other than that, I've been working on that Heroes promotion. I think I am now 2 games away from finishing the 30 matches with friends.
Wow.
Yeah, I was playing a little bit before the show in order to go through and do that. A little bit last night with you, actually.
Hey.
And so almost done on that. And then, of course, there was some D2 shenanigans that was going on last night.
Yes, sir. I guess this is a good bridge to my weekend gaming.
Segue.
Hey, we're getting good at this.
Segue.
105 episodes in, we're practically masters.
Yes.
So
well, we are the same person after all.
This is also true. The hive mind is very strong.
Mm-hmm. Hollow Field's working tonight.
No glitches, no glitches. So D2, yeah, the ladder reset yesterday, Tuesday. So we, of course, decided what better time than then, or now, to hop in and get some nostalgia maximum into our system. So we both, along with some friends of the Westmarch workshop and some viewers from my stream, went into D2. I think we had a 7-person party.
Yeah, for most of it.
Yeah, for a decent amount of the time. There were unfortunately not 7 necros, which is what I was kind of hoping it would end up being. But I think it was majority necros though. I want to say we had 3 in the end.
Yeah. Actually, no, I guess there were 6 of us because we had 3 necros, 1 druid, and 2 sorceresses.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah. You're right. Oh yeah, and Monstrous was there too as well, our good buddy.
And you were there? And you were there?
Everyone was there.
Auntie Anne.
But that was a blast because we we apologize for those who want to now take our hardcore cards from us, but we did do softcore or normal, as they like to call it, for this playthrough of Diablo 2 ladder. Just because if anyone were to die, we didn't want that feeling of like, oh, you died, sorry, I guess you can't play with us anymore. Because, we're just going to keep trucking. It turned out to be a good thing that we went...
Everyone forgets the paladin. Oops, sorry. Sorry, Lion Sword. Yep, and there was a paladin there.
So there was 7.
There was 7.
Forgot the paladin.
Nobody cares about the paladin. He's just there for an aura buff.
Thanks for the auras. Oh my god. But yeah, there was some serious dying. I think we all died at least once. I think it's safe to say.
Yes, I believe we all died at least once, and many people multiple times when we got into the underground passage. So the stream would have ended there.
Yeah.
And it was exactly after we would go through to start the stream, and I was telling the story of the last time that I played hardcore, and it was a skeleton archer pack in the cathedral, or maybe it was but it was just you have the possessed which slow you, that all of their attacks slow. and then the rest just do very, very nasty things to you. Very unspeakable things to you.
Horrible acts.
Mm-hmm. And
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we got wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. It was some people's first time playing Diablo 2 as well, so that was kind of a cool experience to share. Getting back into it. It was my first time really playing a Necromancer, so I had no idea what I was doing and followed your advice and just put points into skeleton things that were named skeleton.
Yep, if it said skeleton, put points into it.
Yeah, it worked out great. So I enjoyed that. We got through all of Act 1 and then a little bit of Act 2, but man, the servers, I guess, were either slammed or just a little creaky because we could not keep a game together for quite some time after we hit Act 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was up with that, mainly because there were other people that we talked with in chat later that were playing the whole time that we were and never got disconnected.
Yeah, that's peculiar.
Mm-hmm. It might have just been the IP or the server that we were on, that was getting dropped, because there are different server clusters for D2, the legacy servers, and that was one of those things about how you hunted down the Uber Diablo.
Right.
You can go through and check and make sure that your IP matches one particular server group, so that way when it spawns, it will spawn in your game.
Right. Yeah. I guess maybe we should have done some server hunting for a stable one, not just Uber Diablo. But
yep.
One with some legs on it. But even with that going down, it was still a lot of fun. And I think this is something that we probably will continue, right? As long as we can find some free time to get people together. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be down for it. That's for certain.
Nice. So yeah, look forward to some D2 stuff if you want to hop in with us. Maybe get a character near where we are. I want to say everyone was around like level 16ish, 17ish or something.
Yeah, we're around like 17 or so. We're looking for the Roderick Cube.
So now there you go. You have your warning. Catch up, and we'll announce the next time we get a D2 stream going.
Yep. If you would like to continue with us, just get up to the point where you're in Act 2, kill Radamant, and then you're set. You're good.
US East.
Yes, it should be noted. US East expansion character non-hardcore. There we go.
There it is. All the check marks.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you mentioned Heroes. I played 2 games of Heroes, and apparently I was looking. Someone had mentioned that you can check the last time you had played Heroes, so I checked it, and it was 7 months previous to yesterday. So that was fun to brush that off a little bit.
Not terrible. Not terrible at all.
No, within a year,
Mm-hmm.
I actually think 7 months ago was right after PAX East, and I was excited to play other games after going to PAX East, and that lasted for all about 1 day. Whoops.
Yeah. I wonder if they have that feature for StarCraft 2. Because that would definitely be one that I have not touched in quite some time. Multiplayer, at least. Not so much the single player too. I don't think I've actually played the single player campaign since I beat Legacy, which was going to be closing in on a year here now.
Actually, it's something we used to keep track of. Have you played your downloaded hero pack?
No.
Oh my god, this guy.
Hey, the third pack I think is coming out this week, or finally came out, or comes out next week, and so then, I have an excuse, because I was waiting for all 3 parts of the story to come out before I played it.
Oh, that's what you were doing.
Yes.
Calculated. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Smart move.
Yep, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh my gosh, if you believe him,
then you're my friend.
Shame. All right. And last but not least, wrapping up some things. I did play some D3, quite a bit actually, since we last met up for a show here. Been consistently playing and streaming. Really motivated and excited for it, especially since coming back from BlizzCon, I hadn't done my seasonal journey yet or my conquest, so those are some things I definitely wanted to check off right away. Got the Crusader going, the Demon Hunter geared up, and between the 2 of them, managed to get all the conquest done and the whole seasonal journey done, all solo efforts. So for all of those people who complain, I can't do Belial 45 seconds, Torment 13, I'm here to tell you it's possible. just make a demon hunter.
That seems
Pretty
to
much.
be that seems to be the hang up for a lot of people. But you can also do it in a party.
That's also true. Yep. If you don't want to do it on hard mode, you can certainly just find a party. And I think there are actually
Well,
communities.
you can't complete it if you do it on hard.
This
Ah.
guy.
Ah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So there definitely is some communities and things because I've been checking Reddit, and that's a conversation piece where people are a little miffed that it's so hard. So I think people are putting together communities for Curies on that. And PTR is up. Some things have been happening over there. Been following the updates. Season 9 went live on there for testing.
9?
And 9? This is going to be your favorite season coming up.
Yes.
Season 9. It's looking good. Right now, I'm crossing my fingers that the Crusaders and Faithful Memory carries forward. I'm sure we can talk a little bit more about that in the news sections, but if so, Crusaders will have options for the first time in quite some time, and I'm very excited for that possibility.
Yeah, that is definitely good. It's everybody's favorite build, hammers. So it's definitely got some excitement going on there.
Oh, for sure. Community's buzzing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess actually that is all I have for Week in Gaming. So since we mentioned PTR, we might as well segue right on into the PTR news section.
Transition.
All
right.
So something we mentioned last time we met together was that the PTR is live, and that happened on November 8th, Tuesday, right after BlizzCon. And then since then, we've had a couple of small updates to the PTR. Nothing too massive, mostly just fixing some bugs that are specific to the PTR and some of the items that they introduced. But we can actually go into PTR notes and talk a little bit about maybe some of our favorite things or things we're looking forward to. I think one of the things we mentioned last time, of course, is the shiny new client that's coming, and it has a lot of people very positive and pumped about performance.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing to note about that is a lot of people have also been complaining about performance decreases since that client has come out. And one of the things that does is being 64-bit, it allows it to use more than 4 gigs of memory, which is normally limited to, as a 32-bit program. Being 64-bit allows it to take up more. If you only have, say, 6 gigs of RAM, it would normally allocate just like a little bit amount to Diablo because it's having to go through and address everything else. But now it's a lot greedier and will take up everything. And they're noticing a performance decrease because it begins to interfere with, the RAM that's being allocated to other system resources and such. You might, if you have a somewhat older system, you might want to go back and force a 32-bit load on it if you're having issues.
Right, and how do you do that?
For that, it's in the BattleNet launcher itself. When you click on Diablo, you would click on Options, and then it's Game Settings. Once you have it loaded, and then you'll notice there's a little checkbox there that says Launch 32-bit client instead of 64-bit. It sucks not to be able to use all the new bells and whistles and toys, but it's better to have the game playable than have the game flashy and not playable.
Definitely true. So that is cool that at least they're carrying forward the capability to keep it the same. Because, not everyone has a beast system.
That's always been one of the major concerns for the developers with, say, World of Warcraft. The game as it is now definitely wouldn't really run all that well on a computer built for it when it first came out in 2004. They've had to continuously go through and, do updates to the engine, the lighting, particle effects, all that other types of stuff. And every time that they do that, they do, of course, leave support for older systems. But the minimum bar continues to raise over time, to where some of the systems, you'll need to do an update or an upgrade in order to continue playing the game efficiently.
Right, getting outclassed a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So it's always a concern, whenever you try to do some sort of engine update to at least make it so that way it performs similarly for those that don't have a system to play on the new hotness.
Mm-hmm. But if you do, there's a lot to look forward to. Like some of the people in chat are stoked about there being just a giant cursor. You can go large cursor option now. There's some extra like shadow elements that you can configure on. There's like multiple anti-aliasing options, so it looks really, really pretty.
Yeah, I should say there's a better anti-aliasing options.
Yeah, yeah. It is noticeable. Like the one thing I actually had both clients open when I was doing some like back and forth comparison, and one of the things instantly that you can tell the difference in is just the sharpness of the text. If you just look and like obviously on your character model you can see some differences as well, but even just something as simple as the text, you're just like, wow, that is so much crystally and clearery and buttery and sweet, and I don't know, I just want to drink it all up. Can't wait for that to come out. It's going to be a game changer for sure.
It will be wunderbar for certain.
Yes. How about you? Any updates on PTR that you're particularly looking forward to?
We were just talking in the pre-show about they buffed the legendary gem in the Darkening of Tristram just yesterday. It used to inflict like the 1,000% weapon damage as fire, and now has been buffed to 12,500%. Though they did
small buff.
Yeah, small buff, but they did also reduce how much it scales upwards. I don't know at what point it will intersect again and then drop off, but yeah, it is interesting that they are going through and doing a little bit of a rework and tweak to that. It's still not going to be usable. Don't think that all of a sudden is going to be something that you're going to be like, oh hey, cool, they buffed it. It does like a crap ton of damage. It whenever it procs, it still stuns you for a second or two, which is no bueno whatsoever.
No, and it's a noticeable stun too.
So it is a nice, quaint little fun item that you could probably use when you're power leveling a new character solo, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I think that is the intention of it, is to obviously be a keepsake from the anniversary event when it's no longer active, but also to be something that potentially gives you some use but doesn't necessarily compete in the high level Greater Rift clears or whatever your top meta is, or final builds are going to look like. Still probably looking for a diamond or something in your helm.
Yeah, and that's one of those, it's just the intent of the item is not to be a competitive item. It's not intended in any way, shape, or form to be used for pushing higher, greater rifts. It's only intended to be a fun little item to go and try out. That's about it. Whole intent. That does have, some people angry, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show, but it's not the point.
Word. I would like to pivot to the Crusader changes, because of course those are near and dear to my heart. But like you were mentioning, hammers is one of the most like coveted and beloved skills. I mean, it just kind of links our combo in D2 and D3 and all that stuff, because Blessed Hammer was an exciting way to play back in D2. They brought it back in D3 with the Seeker of the Light set, and when it came in, it was actually pretty strong. But then Thorns eventually got its rework, and that sort of ruled the roost for Crusaders for quite some time now, for multiple seasons in a row. And right now on PTR, it's looking like the Faithful Memory Power, which, if I can pull it up, states that each enemy hit by Falling Sword increases the damage of Blessed Hammer by 50 to 60% for 5 seconds. And actually, that is 10 seconds now. So this was the original text. So this is obviously very powerful because A, it's an uncapped buff. So this is one of the things that has some of the community concerned, because Twisted Sword was also an uncapped buff when it came in with its legendary power. So they're thinking this could scale out of proportion as well. But just in general, if it stays the way it is, or even if they were to tune down, still keep it uncapped, but maybe tune that 50 to 60, this makes the Seeker of the Light build on par with the Legacy of Nightmares Bombardment build. And that is something that hasn't been seen for Crusaders yet. So as a result, all your top builds, all your top clears had to be Thorns-based builds. Now this brings in more of your call it traditional builds where you're looking for that crit chance, etc. And I think that's healthy for Crusaders just because you would like to see and promote the fact that, hey, you can play this one play style, which is a very different way to gear, very different way to look at your fixes, and you can also do this other thing. Having it just kind of melt down into that one pot of this is your only right choice, while it's powerful and helps you compete, still doesn't necessarily feel all that great because you're like, man, what if I can dream of a day where, kind of like not even to get on the condemn horse or soapbox because that's still the battle I'm fighting. But even just if Seeker is the conduit that brings back some of the more traditional stuff, I would be very happy. So kind of my plea to the community and the developers, let this item have a shot. Before we try and like call it OP, before we think that it's going to ruin everything. If the Crusaders end up being the DPS in groups for once, which has never happened before, like why is that such a bad thing? If for once they have a build that is a little different and not thorns, why not? Let's make it happen.
Yeah, and this is something that I've been seeing some posts on Reddit and such that, they want like a meta shift. They want a meta change. So it would be nice if it's something along these lines that could go through and give them that change. Or might get people experimenting again, because this was something Wyatt had mentioned at BlizzCon. Was a lot of times people will go through and what they perceive as the top build, like once that is like quote unquote figured out, that everyone goes through and does nothing but that, and a lot of other builds just at that point don't get the time of day. That there might be something out there that can surpass it. Maybe not so much, like maybe there's a different loadout for a support spec or a DPS spec that can perform just as well, or maybe is just a completely different way of playing and only one greater rift behind, but will never be found because everyone's just focused on playing what's top. And so it requires some of these changes to shake things up to get people experimenting again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually had forgotten about that. It makes sense because most people, given the fact that it's a limited time, if you're talking about seasons, and in general that people have limited time to play the game, more often than not, you're looking for the path of, we always say, like the path of least resistance to the top, right? So if someone has already figured out, hey, this build is capable of, this degree of greater rift, well, then you're not going to sit there and be like, okay, but what about all these other things I can reinvent the wheel with? You're like, all right, I'm just going to take that and try and push that as far as I can.
Yep.
So it is an interesting time. I wonder how much the developers are motivated to add items like this because they are thinking like, hey, no one's looking at Seeker, and it actually, if given a shot, does have a capability to compete, but just, we need to entice people to use it. So here's this big shining power that, oh, by the way, now your attention is focused here.
And the Seeker of the Light set also was kind of an interesting one for them to go through and pick as their change, given they had just done the one Developer Chronicle talking about going through and making some changes to Akans, which, it got the new neck slot, but no reworks on the actual system, the set bonuses. But Seeker was one of the best performing Paladin sets, Crusader sets, still in D2 mode. Was one of the best performing Crusader sets after the Lawn Bombardment, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep. It was pretty much the one that was, what's the word, reliably reaching higher greater rifts over the other, like roll ones. And I mean, Invoker kind of was doing its own thing, but then there was this weird Invoker Akans mix, so it's almost harder to classify that. So yeah, you do make a good point though. Akans got a little bit of love. It did get a next slot, and it looks like they're kind of kicking the door open on part 2 of that post, because one of the things was like, we want Akans to potentially be a thing that's used for your Death's Breaths and your Sage set synergy.
Yeah,
but they also, sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, yeah, and that was the whole point of having the 7th piece on there, so that way you could do a Sage's Farming set. There were 2 things pointed out in that post, is giving it the option to become, have the flexibility to equip it, so that way you could also equip Sages, but at the same time they also talked about, a little bit of the mechanical reworks.
Right. So yeah, and that's the other part that really hasn't been delivered on yet. So assuming that that's probably going to be rolled out in a coming patch. And I guess it kind of makes sense because if they give you too many changes, then it might actually be too much content. If they're really trying to stretch this out so that we're getting enough stuff to fill the void between whatever the next big thing is for Diablo franchise and D3 just being out, then they're probably motivated to say, okay, here's a little something for Seeker, and then we could do something for a con, but let's wait and do that in the next PTR, and that way it kind of feels like the class is being fleshed out. It probably might make some people like, oh, I want all the changes now, but it also helps them to kind of spread it out a bit.
Yeah, and it's like, gosh darn it, we got other news to cover, but that was like your comment about that, about going through like stretching out and the next big thing to come. A lot of segue, but I'll hold off and I'll just settle
Save
for
it.
saying segue.
All right. And I just wanted to comment on, since we are talking about some of the items that were introduced, just some quick hits on things that I've seen. The Hellcat Waistguard was the Demon Hunter belt that got a change. That one, I've saw Desolacer put together a little build, and it was doing some cool things in like a T13 regular Rift setup.
Yeah, it was.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to finish a thought on it real quick. There were some bugs even when he was testing it because area damage wasn't being applied properly to some of the bounces and things like that. So that it actually could perform better than what he had it doing. But at the very least, he had some kind of build working for it. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, yeah, it was so far from what we've seen, it was a nice little, speed farm build for T13, but that unfortunately was about it. And I knew a lot of people, and myself at first thought when they saw this was like, oh, cool, that'll be some nice little thing that they can do to use with the Shadows set. But its best way of going and using it, of course, is with Unhallowed Essence. It just gets a much larger damage bonus through the discipline buff than the base 2p bonus from Shadows.
Right. Right. Yeah, we'll have to see if there's more tuning to be done with that one.
Yeah, though I guess one thing that I haven't seen people really playing around with is using it with Natalia's.
How would that fit?
The Reign of Vengeance
Oh,
Enanthium.
right.
Yeah, because
Right.
that was one of the ones that it's actually buffed on, and since those quote unquote grenades that it's dropping already does a ton of damage, that the bounces are then going to do a lot. It just depends. It doesn't follow. It has a small actual area of effect. The bounces will help with that, but I don't know how well that would actually work out. I haven't seen anybody testing it. I don't know if anybody has actually tested it or not. I'm saying this. I haven't tested it, but maybe I should throw up one of my non-seasonal Nats sets from ages past to throw it up on the PTR and test it out and see how that goes.
Sounds like you have a project.
I guess so. I kind of cornered myself with that one now, haven't I?
Yep. To quickly touch on some of the other ones, I saw a lot of unhappiness with the saffron wrap for the barbs. They got a change to that belt, which is supposed to power up overpower. The damage of your next overpower is increased by 40 to 50% for each enemy hit, up to a maximum of 20 enemies. My guess with this one is that it seems like it would most likely fit into a whirlwind build, so something with like Wrath of the Waste. But Wrath of the Waste itself has been kind of the redheaded stepchild of the barbarian sets. Like it's kind of like the Natalia's of the sets, if you want to look at it that way. Like it just needs its bringing into the 21st century, if you will, because it kind of got left behind when some of the other sets got reworked, like Raycor and IK has always been good, etc. So maybe if that were to change, then this belt would gain more potential power and output. But right now, at the very least, it doesn't seem like anyone has found a good way to slot it into anything to make it useful.
Yeah. I know, like, continuing on with the items, the Witch Doctor, the Barber, that one seems to be going through and playing out relatively well, and a Legacy of Nightmare build based around Spirit Barrage. I was actually talking with, what was it, Imperium, and he was, talking about that might have some usefulness and high-end clears, not just for Witch Doctors, but like a DPS Witch Doctor and group builds that could have some effect at the higher end Greater Rift builds if it pans out. Whether that also highlights some issues that they've been having on the PTR and some problems that high end players are having with the PTR and some of the changes that they've made.
Yeah, I saw Big Daddy Den also put together a few build videos on this one as well. It looked like it was performing. It killed the Greater Rift Guardian so quickly, but I guess there were also some potential bugs with it as well too. So it's always hard to know exactly if you're getting out of it what you're supposed to be getting out of it. But it looks promising. So that's kind of cool that, it seems they've been trying across multiple patches to make Spirit Barrage a thing, and maybe this is the final nail in the hatchet.
Yeah, they
mixing metaphors
might have gotten it this time,
right? So I guess we'll see how that one works. I did talk to Lala about Rabid Strike for the monks. It's a fist weapon that they put a power on, where spirit spenders that teleport you while Epiphany is active are also mimicked on a distant target for free. She was trying that one, I think, in the Sun Wukong setup because it seemed to make the most sense there, but it was unfortunately not working out all that well because there's a bit of anti-synergy. Since I guess with Sun Wukong, you want to be more distant than close to things, and so I didn't. She was talking monk things, and it kind of went over my head, but her complaints seemed valid, so I guess this just isn't where it should be yet. I haven't really seen many other monks besides Davlock, who's really big in the monk forums on the official forums and also over on Reddit. He's been doing some testing as well, and I think his latest thing says there's now a bug that was introduced with the latest PTR patch, so no clue really what's happening with this item, but it doesn't seem like it's creating a huge sea tide change just yet.
It's kind of like with the same thing when they released the Fist of the Heavens items to buff for the Crusaders. They just kind of came out and they're a thing.
Yep, it's fizzled out. Maybe but it could be like the Spirit Barrage, right? Maybe it's part 1 of 3. soon we'll have another bracers for it, and then a weapon that's also gonna synergize. Maybe
we can only hope.
I know. Make Fist of the Heavens great again.
Yes, that we all want, all of us. Maybe that's gonna be the rework that they do for cons.
I'd be down for that.
They're gonna just directly buff Condemn and Fist of the Heavens. That's gonna be the build.
Well, that works for me. All right, and then Manald Hill. I suppose we should give some talking time to the Wizard. That ring gained a power where they're really trying to make the Lightning Wizard a thing. Lightning damage done by your arcane spenders does an additional 20 to 25% of the damage over 5 seconds. This damage over time effect can be refreshed by additional lightning damage and stacks. All I've seen on this one, and obviously Wizard isn't something I seek out a ton of info on, so I could be biased, but was Nerdwords basically saying that this still is not going to make the Lightning Wizard occur or happen. Because they added something in the past, and they added a passive that was supposed to help out with some ranged wizard stuff and potentially go into a lightning type build. And I think there was another item or power that was also supposed to prop up lightning, but I guess it's still just not quite there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not in tune with the wizard community, so I can't make a comment on it, unfortunately.
Any wizards out there, if you want to write in?
Yeah, they did. In some of the updates, they have buffed the Mandel heal effect, so that way it does the 13 to 14,000% weapon damage. But yeah, it still requires you to use the paralysis, and still requires it to actually proc the stun on them. So
yeah, I guess we'll see where that one falls as well. All right.
It's kind of funny how a couple of the items that they had with this PTR were specifically trying to make generators viable, or signature spells, as it were.
Yeah, I wonder if it's kind of the coming around for the second time, because it feels like the first time they really focused on that was when Focus and Restraint ended up becoming a big thing, and I feel like we kind of moved away from it when the Endless Walk became a thing. and now maybe it's another pass again to be like, hey, we still want generators to matter a bit more.
Hmm. Yeah,
That'd
because
be-
again, I'm not really in tune with like the wizard bills and stuff like that. But since like paralysis only procs off of lightning damage, like some of their biggest lightning spells, or I guess the most iconic in my mind, are the generators. And when your primary damage is going to be coming from the proc, not the actual damage of the skill itself, I guess it really wouldn't particularly matter what source it's coming from.
Right. Right. We'll have to see if it ends up panning out.
Hmm.
Make generators great again, I guess.
Yes, yes. And we'll have to wait and see what they do with the necromancer and how they work generators into that, because most builds revolve around not using a generator. How can I not use a generator? Or your generator is there and you cast it once every 5 seconds to keep your focus and restraint buff up.
Right. And especially for the Necromancer in particular, the only generator we've seen right now is a channeled generator, which I don't think there are too many of those out there. So that in particular is already kind of awkward. At least what my review of it after playing was it was weird because it forces you to stand still, but at the same time you're getting damage from your pets and things like that. So it's not like it's totally hurting your damage. But usually a generator is something that you want to be sort of not disruptive to your build because all you really want is the resource out of it so you can start casting your big hitters again.
Yep, definitely not going to be using that one with focus and restraint. Yeah,
No.
due to the way that it works out. But it's we can't take any of the damage numbers or like weapon percent damages from that build at BlizzCon, because none of that is going to be as it is. We can only kind of take its relative values comparative to other skills, as where the developers have an idea of where they want it, as well as the mechanics themselves. And like you're mentioning, the fact that you have to stop and channel. And even though it did damage, I want to say it felt like it did more damage than any of your other skills. But it was single target.
Yeah.
If you wanted to kill something, you didn't sit there and cast. If you wanted to like get some corpses on the ground to start chaining corpse explosion, it was fastest to go through, pick one mob, command undead, and then do the blood siphon on it in order to get that thing killed. It just felt like it was faster killing than what the bone spear was, but the disadvantage, of course, is it was single target. Whereas the bone spear, you could go and hit multiple mobs.
Right. My guess is there should be a rune for blood siphon that makes it, hey, I'm gonna reduce the damage I do, but siphon off of more than one target.
Make it maybe like that one rune for Ray of Frost, where it does like a little bubble around you. You have a blood tornado that you summon around you that just then. Just siphons everything.
I would like to see a blood tornado.
Blood tornado. Neil, there you go. Someone forward that to Neil. Blood tornado.
I love it. Print it. Oh my goodness. Some still continuing on with PTR 2. One of the things, of course, that I'm always super stoked for is when that season goes live on the PTR for testing. Because that gives us all the heads up info on what we can expect, allows the planning to start, and we have that information here. Let's start with the Hadrig's gift sets. So, quickly reading through for each class, it's actually a little bit of deja vu all over again.
Yeah, we've come full circle now, haven't we?
Yes, we have. So they're actually bringing back the first rotation of Hadrig's gifts when this system was introduced. Back with 2.4. So for Barbs, it's Might of the Earth, Crusaders, Thorns of the Invoker, Demon Hunter, Shadow's Mantle, Monkey King's Garb, also known as Sonwuko, Witch Doctor, Jade Harvester, and Wizard Firebird's Finery. So exactly the same 6 from when this was first introduced. Interesting. I think that now that we've also seen some changes and updates to these sets as well too, I would say the Crusader is pretty well off here, because Thorns.
I was about to say, Invokers is definitely a strong choice as a starter if you want something that can push quick and push fast to get anything else buffed up there.
But also Wizards, Firebirds is their jam right now, so that is a very good starter as well. How do you feel about Demon Hunter and Witch Doctors, Shadows and Jade, respectively?
Jade is not a bad one to start off with. It definitely has the DPS potential, but it is very squishy, so it relies upon finding those off pieces in order to go through and get in there. Like the Spirit of Arakir is nice because it's your speed farming build that you can start off with, and start getting you up there. But Jade is a little bit wonky. It's you'll like the spirit with the current season, the Spirit of Arakir, you're gonna hold on to. It's gonna be useful for the rest of the season. Jade, it will kind of be a drop and forget. Whether you get Arakir or Zunimasas or Helltooth, just because you're not going to be quite as squishy with those builds. And before you, of course, finally kind of go and transition over to Helltooth as your in-game pushing. Or, with this next season, your Lawn Spirit Barrage.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and Shadow's Mantle, not a bad set. Not a bad set at all. It is a very different playstyle from any of the other Demon Hunter sets, so it is a little wonky to get used to, but it has a lot of pushing potential in it that you can, do pretty well. You just stack on that area damage at the beginning, and it will set you up until you get Unhallowed Essence for your speed and pushing build.
I'd actually talked to someone just today, and I feel bad for forgetting who it was, but they mentioned that they did their seasonal journey completion with the Shadow's Mantle on the Demon Hunter. Mm-hmm. They like their GR75 to get the Lionhearted Conquest, etc. I think they only switched to Unhallowed Essence for the Curses, the Cursed Chest event one.
Mm-hmm. So that way you can go and go down. Yeah, no, yeah. It actually is not that far behind Unhallowed Essence and Marauders in terms of Greater Rift clears. You could easily go and do 90 pluses with it. It just, of course, it's a different play style. It doesn't have as much cohesion, with just like doing the multi-shot or cluster arrow builds, with your Unhallowed Essence or Marauders. And so you look at the game a little bit differently, kind of like when you play Hex with the Witch Doctor. You play a lot differently compared to Helltooth, so not a lot of people give it a lot of love, but it's up there. And this is something that I saw people talking about for killing the Belial in the 45 seconds for the Torment 13 that people have been having issues with. They've specifically been going out and finding impaled demon hunters to go and help them clear it, just because their single target damage is second to none.
That's right, through the roof. I think the Barb also is in a similarly situated situation because Might of the Earth is also another very capable set, but again, kind of that symptom of what you were describing earlier in our conversation. It's a lot easier and more understandable perhaps to do the Raid-Core stuff, Charge Barb, and the IK. It's been something it's a build that's been around forever. It's one of their speed farm builds as well, so like a lot of people just have familiarity with it. Whereas Might of the Earth just got that rework, almost a year ago, last BlizzCon. And so it's still kind of, I think now people are more accustomed to it, but it was always kind of this is a weirder playstyle, like my leap is my generator, and we have all these earthquakes and avalanches and things coming out of nowhere. I have to figure out how this playstyle works, but it actually is a very capable set. So that's not a bad starter for Barbs, but I feel like people will probably, if they start with it, try to find a way into Raid-Core and things like that, just to get their speed farm options available to them.
Mm-hmm.
And Monk, I'm, again, not too certain because Monk things, but I think Sun Wukong is actually not bad, assuming you go with like a Lashing Tail Kick build, which is still a very strong skill after all the synergy that it's gotten lately. So that actually could be a potentially good way to start the season. So I think in general, you have a lot of good options for starting the season here. Have you thought about what you're going to do for Season 9 yet?
I'm probably going to go and do a Demon Hunter again.
It is.
Back
to your first love.
Just going to go back and do it. I do want to mention, since you said Lashing Tail Kick, there was, in this most recent update, PTR update yesterday, there was a change to the Rivera Dancers, which was the boots that buffed Lashing Tail Kick. That they were 250 to 300% increased damage and are now rolling with 150 to 200% increased damage. It apparently was not an intended nerf. Nevelistos posted earlier today that is more than likely a bug, and that they're going to pass that on for QA testing. So don't start freaking out yet. They're not trying to nerf the Lashing Tail Kick builds.
Ooh, crisis averted.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And as for myself, I'm still not sure. I feel like I always go through this debate, and I guess this will be a bridge to the conquest as well. But there's like the two, the angel and the devil on my shoulder, right? There's the part of me that wants to start with what I want to play that season, and then there's the part of me that says just do DH because the Demon Hunters have all the best benefits for completing the conquest as quickly as possible. Like their speed farm is incredible, their high greater rift damage output is very easily attained, and like basically it all runs through one set. Like once you get your Unhallowed Essence, you can essentially do anything at a high level.
You're golden. Speed farm,
so,
there you go.
Got it.
Greater rift pushing, there it is. Want to do bounties? Perfect.
You got it. Yeah, it's definitely the best starter in my opinion, for when you're just trying to get geared up, get things moving quickly. So it almost feels like if your priorities lie within getting really high conquest leaderboard positions, you almost do yourself a disservice by not starting DH. So I think I probably will follow you and do the same, and then transition into Crusader, because I really do want to try Hammers if it follows through with its promise of greatness. It's just and Thorns is still going to be good. It's a gamble. That's what it comes down to. It's a gamble on whether other people will just do Demon Hunter and potentially pass me up, or if they're going to do what they want to do as well too, and maybe it'll be a fair race.
Well, I mean,
don't know.
That is the mantra of the Crusaders. Make Zakarum great again.
By the end of this podcast, we're going to make everything great again.
Make Sanctuary great again.
There it is.
Yeah, we may or may not have yelled that many times while at BlizzCon.
Oh yes.
And not even
Perhaps.
like at the convention center, just like walking down the street yelling at cars as they drove by. Make Sanctuary great again.
There may or may not have been drinks involved.
Yep. I guess probably makes it worse when we did it when drinks were not involved. Because then we don't have an excuse. Then we're just being stupid.
This is very true.
Mm-hmm.
And as I teased, talking about the conquest, we also were able to figure out which conquest will be available in Season 9. Oh, and by the way, before I talk about this, we also got to see the portrait and pet, which are your rewards for getting through chapters 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that pet, I want that turtle. It's like a huge-ass turtle, and it's awesome. Some people are saying they're getting some Shadow of the Colossus feels from it. I don't know what that is. Is that a game?
Yeah, it's an old PS2 game. I myself, and then I never really played it, so I don't know.
Either way, it looks sick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know that I need the reference. I just want that damn turtle. People who have earned it in the PTR say it's actually pretty sizable compared to your character's model as well. So it apparently is a rather large, awesome turtle that will hang out with you and collect your gold. In any case, I got distracted by the shiny.
Yeah, and then the portrait itself was like was it like death? It was like a Reaper type thing on it.
Yeah, it was hard to tell exactly what was going on there. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it looks cool. That's an interesting design.
Yeah.
We'll have to see some more from that one, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be interesting to go through and see. I'll also be really interested with what they do for the portraits and the pets as we go to have when we get like the new zones. The Shrouded Moors and the Temple of the Firstborn released. If there's going to be anything based off of that, like imagine having like a little mini shepherd pet.
That thing is scary.
It would haunt your dreams. And I guess at that point they would not be dreams anymore.
Oh no, those are nightmares.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Definitely
It's
new.
not as difficult to handle as hell though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, conquest. So we did get the conquest. The 5 that will be available in season 9 for completion are as follows: Speed Racer. Well, these are all the hardcore titles, of course. Speed Racer, complete acts 1 through 5 at max level in under 1 hour. Avaricia, complete a 50 million gold streak while outside of the vault in the inner sanctum. Need for Speed, complete a Nephilim Rift at max level on Torment 10 within 2 minutes. Superhuman, reach Greater Rift level 45 solo without any set items equipped. And Stars Align coming back, kill 350 or more monsters in a Curse Chest event at level 70 on Torment 10 difficulty. My first take on these is that all of them are, well, besides the solo, of course, Greater Rift level 45 non-set, all of them are very, very and Apparition, I suppose. All of them are very achievable via multiplayer. So it looks like it'll be a good season for getting a party together and keeping it together relatively early on. Because your Curse Chest, your Need for Speed, and your Speed Racer are all pretty party based. Once you get your Boon of the Hoarder, Avaricia is essentially done. And Superhuman's not too bad because all classes really have builds that you can do that one with. And so I'm still thinking Demon Hunter is gonna rule the roost on this one because you get your speed setup for your Speed Racer, kill the whole screen with your Avaricia for all the gold. Need for Speed again, kill the whole screen. Superhuman, you can do like a multi-shot, you can do it with Chakram, you can do so many different builds with no sets. And your Stars Align, like your UEDH, is exactly what you want for killing the Curse Chest.
Mm-hmm. There is not any of those that the Demon Hunter has any issues with.
Nope.
And I mean, for some of them, like the Speed Racer and the Need for Speed, they're probably one of like the go-to best ones of doing it.
That's right, especially Speed Racer. Like some Speed Racers have been done solo with Demon Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of crazy. Gotta have some sick RNG, but just the fact that you can essentially vault limitlessly without touching your resources really is huge. Is huge.
Yeah, but that is definitely one of the ones for those looking to go through and complete your seasonal journey. The conquests. This is probably like some of the easiest conquests that we've gotten. Period.
I definitely agree with that. So yeah, if you're trying to get your stash tab, because that is something to note too, the stash tab continues to be available beyond just Season 8. We were mentioning if you were keeping up to date with getting your seasonal journey up to Conqueror each season, by now, this Season 8, you can max out at 10, but if you haven't maxed out yet, you can continue to get up to that point with each preceding season after Season 8, because it's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
Word. All right. Is there anything else from the PTR you wanted to talk about, or should we move on?
No, I believe that is a good point to go through and move the conversation along.
Cool beans.
So, do we want to go through and do like I guess put the cap on our BlizzCon recap?
Yep.
All right. So I know like last week, the week before last week, I'm still getting used to this. We talked a lot about the BlizzCon and the panels. Maybe not so much about some of the other things that we heard and saw and talked about, and just like general overall feelings, like the tour that we got at Blizzard and things of that nature. But is there anything that like stuck out in your mind that we didn't cover last week that you'd want to take a moment to go and talk about?
I think just kind of taking a step back, especially now that it's been a few weeks removed from BlizzCon, I've had some time to reflect on it, and I think this one. I've only attended 2, but I think this one definitely topped the charts for me overall, just because it's something where I think it's important to continue to go to BlizzCon. Like, you can go once and get the experience, but I think it's the kind of event that actually builds on itself the more you attend. Because last year, I felt like I made, tons of connections with some of the Blizz Pro people, a few people in the Diablo community, but you don't get to see everyone, and you don't get to do everything you want to do. So then the next year, you have those established contacts, you get to rekindle some of those friendships or strengthen them. But then you also get to say, oh yeah, last time I didn't meet J-How, or last time I didn't get to spend as much time with whoever's Flux or whoever's name you want to throw in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of make it your mission to continue to grow your circle of friends, your acquaintances, your contacts. So I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of cool to see it's if you want to really like nerd about it, it's kind of like a real life RPG. Like I felt like I leveled up this time going because I had my experience from last time, so my bar was kind of, halfway full. And then this time I knew more of what to do. I knew where I wanted to be, and I got to meet more people that way, and therefore it leveled up a little bit. And now the next time I go, I feel like I'll be even more equipped, have a bigger sword or more magic in my hands to be able to make more out of it. So if anything, this BlizzCon felt like it was the best, but then makes me excited to return again. And I think we'll just continue to build on. I feel like everyone's been like, we need to spend more days out there now, and we already extend the trip by quite a few. So
Yeah. This was the longest that I've ever been out there, that's for certain. And this is definitely not my first rodeo.
it's incredible. I think there are still more things to do too. Like people might want to do Disneyland or like more puzzle rooms, or there's so many things in the area, and I think it's maybe becoming more common to see people kind of extend their trips. So you can even make a plan with other groups or other friends to be like, hey, let's spend an extra day or two. Let's go beyond go beyond Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go to Irvine or go to other places in Orange County and check things out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, just so continuing on that same thought, there's a lot of people that you begin to make connections with that you might not even have made connections with at last year's BlizzCon through social media, Twitter, Twitch, what have you, and then you're just walking through the convention center, and it's just like, oh, hey, I know that guy. Hi, I'm this guy from Twitter. We talk occasionally. Let's talk. Let's hold a conversation. I know you. Just like those types of things. Actually being able to meet them in person and then just start talking as if it wasn't the actual first time that you met, because you've been talking for months, maybe years, before you actually got to meet them.
It's true. There's a certain awesomeness to that familiarity, even though I've never actually like seen you face to face. It's like as soon as the introductions are made, you're like, okay, now let's like put that behind us. And just yesterday we were talking on Twitter about what do you think is going to be revealed, and so we saw it, and let's dive in deeper. There's just that same. I think maybe we touched on this a little bit last or 2 weeks ago, but there's that level of equalness, perhaps, of just everyone coming together for the same reason, everyone with the same interest. So it's not like, even though you watch that guy stream to tens of thousands of people, when you get your one-on-one with them, you're both there with the same sort of like giddy, geeky excitement. And it kind of, I think, Blizzard themselves do a good job of setting that off with the whole, like, take care of yourselves, take care of each other kind of mission statement that they give us at the opening. But it really rings true. Like everyone kind of takes it to heart, and you see a lot of good camaraderie, a lot of good deeds being done all throughout the convention.
Mm-hmm. It's a full-on experience, outside of the convention itself. The whole the social aspect of it. That's I think we've said this many times. It's something you just don't get on the virtual ticket. You can only get by going out there, and it's not just for those 2 days. It's just the moment that you get to the area, like when you step into the hotel, it begins, and you just see a sea of people all wearing Blizzard shirts.
Like, my people, this is my home. Yeah, man, it's an unreal feel. Just especially when you just come from a place where like none of that occurs on a daily basis. It's so shocking. But then it becomes so normal, like when we're in Coco's, that restaurant, and like every table is taken up by some guild group meeting, or like these group of people that met up and were like, hey, let's become friends and go get some food together and stuff. You're having multiple conversations on different IPs, and you can't then throw a rock and not hit someone who's talking about something that you have an interest in. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just kind of the general takeaways, I suppose. The Westmarch Feels Shop portion of this thing. I will say that I want to go back to Blizzard HQ. And just because I feel like everything we saw, I was like, one, wanting to ask a lot of questions, but also two, just trying to absorb it all, like make those memories, like make the neurons correct as hard as I could, so I didn't forget what I saw. But man, there's just so much. The thing that blew me away the most was the attention to detail on everything. Like even just the door to a conference room and the fact that like it's named after something cool from a game, or it has these ornate designs to it. Like nothing is normal there. And it's just crazy to me that, you know, you can walk around, see these amazing art pieces, all these statues. It's all just littered. Like they're living and breathing all these universes they create.
And everywhere that you go, creativity is, you know, encouraged and inspired. You know, everyone's desk has memorabilia, you know, posters, pictures, cereal boxes, you know, you name it. They have it on their desks, you know, just to go through and say like, this is mine. This is my area. You know, we saw like Lego setups and all this other types of stuff just everywhere that you went. You know, just walking by. Someone had like their desk and it had all this. They went through and they made all these things. Make NA great again. You know, it was just it was funny. It was a great time that it's encouraged. Like it's almost encouraged, you know, over there for people to, you know, go and be creative, show your inner geek, you know, show who you really are.
Oh yeah, I think even at one point Brandy was saying like there's some one-upsmanship to it too. Like someone brings in a cool thing to add to their desk, and then someone else sees that and it's like, oh, you're bringing that in? Well, I got something else at home that I can. Yeah. So you definitely see a lot of expression, like personal expression, which I feel like it's almost a thing where the workforce you tend to not do that. You know, like I know coming from my more like I don't know what word to use, but like more, I don't want to call it more serious, but just like the regular work world, your cube it has some flair to it. Like you might have a calendar of like cats, and it's like, oh, that person likes cats.
Yeah.
But you don't have like wall to wall litterings of like clippings from magazines and things and stuff like that, you know?
Like little Lego dioramas set up on the desk and stuff like that. Definitely not something that you particularly see in the more you know, kind of white collar career fields.
But yeah, I mean, I wish that there was more that we could say, because you know they make you sign NDAs and things like that, and like we saw a lot of cool stuff. I had some pictures up on the internet if people are curious, because there are some things you can take pictures of and some things you can't, and then like certain things you see but you can't talk about. But it is just if you get the chance, I guess, is one of the big takeaways here. If you get the chance, you should totally try to make a visit to Blizzard part of your BlizzCon experience, because it is a sight to behold. It just reinforces the love and the passion that these people have for the games. Like you might think, oh, that person doesn't play the game, they're so out of touch. But I mean, they are literally surrounded by it all the time. It's encouraged for them to play the games like on their lunch breaks and things like that. Like it's really hard to be out of touch. And I don't think it's necessarily a fair assessment.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to some of the points that I wanted to make in this episode, that I think since BlizzCon there's been a lot of extremely unfair criticisms that have been leveled at the Diablo 3 development team. And, you know, I can definitely imagine that it is just going to be dismissed as, oh, well, you're just a Blizzard fanboy or whatever. You're not seeing the actual problems for what they are. But some of the criticisms that I've seen, just, you know, not only are they unfounded in my opinion, but they're hypocritical, because the Diablo team has both wasted far too much development time creating the Darkening of Tristram, while at the same time was extremely lazy and half-assed it. You know, they go through and they're saying that they spent so much development time doing this, you know, and wasting this, and it's only going to be available for 1 month when they could have been creating other content. And at the same time, Blizzard didn't put any effort into it at all, and it's no new skins and no new tile sets. So it's which one is it that you want to complain about? The fact that they spent too much time making it, or they didn't spend enough time making it? And
right.
I know that a lot of this goes through and comes out of a lot of people just echoing the infamous Crips D3 rant video, where he really lays into the dev team, and this is where a lot of it comes from, because his criticism basically was that they spent far too much time making the Darkening of Tristram, and then at the same time they didn't spend anywhere near enough time making the Darkening of Tristram. I don't know, after watching that, I don't know which way he would have preferred it, whether they had actually spent more time doing it or less time. But when it comes down to it, I see a lot of the complaints that people are going through and having. Why are there no new tile sets, in the 16 levels in the Darkening? Well, they've been spending their time making the new tile sets for Temple of the Firstborn and for the Shrouded Moors. They're creating new content like what you wanted. That's why they did it. Well, why didn't they do any new monster skins, for the Darkening of Tristram? Well, because they're making new monsters for the new zones, for the new content that you wanted. Well, why did they make all of the anniversary stuff just blues with no textures? Well, because they're working on redesigning older legendaries to make them useful, and they're having to create all new item sets and art assets for the Necromancer. Well, why is it taking so long for the Necromancer to come out? It's like, to steal a quote from Kriparian, it's like, I have it on good authority, from someone within the industry that does not work at Blizzard, that all the stuff that you saw at BlizzCon has only been in development since July. Everything that they went through and showed off, the Darkening of Tristram, Shrouded Moors, the Necromancer, the Armory, all these new systems have only been in development for like a few months. And
right.
so it's it wasn't so much that they took time away from other projects to work on the Darkening of Tristram. It was done at the same time as the other projects were being worked on. So it was a big question of, how much time do we go through and do to this, limited time event, it's just a celebration of the 20th anniversary of the franchise. It's supposed to be a nice little thing you do, once, twice, maybe a couple of times to finish off all the achievements, and then that's it. And you might play it one more time when it comes around next year, just for the old shits and giggles sake or whatever. It's no different than seasonal events in World of Warcraft, when people have been for the longest time asking for seasonal events in Diablo, and we get our first one, barring the Kanai's event,
Right.
and everyone just goes through and rips it to shreds. When you look at all the other games that have like seasonal content, it's not something that's designed to take away or to be in competition with your other in-game content. It's just something fun and nice that you do for a couple of times, and then you're done. That's it. You might play it a few more times to get all of the cosmetic items or all the achievements out of it, but then that's it. It's done. It has fulfilled its purpose at that point. And to not take away from everything else that they're doing, the reason why it doesn't get like full new tile sets, they only did a couple new skins and only like one completely new mob type, Lazarus, is because they're developing all this new stuff for new items, new zones, and new monsters. The things that in your criticism of the Darkening of Tristram event you want, you're getting. It's just there's a lot of hate and resentment that's been going along lately. I guess because there wasn't an expansion announced, and it's these same people that go through and complain on these forums that we want a new expansion. Well, you're getting a new class. No, we want a new expansion. Well, you're getting new zones. You're getting new items. You're getting new monsters. You're getting new quests. You're getting new bounties. The only thing that you're not getting is a continuation of the main storyline. You are getting new story and new lore in these new subzones. But the only thing that you're not getting is a continuation of the main story, which these same people that are complaining, they hate the story in Diablo 3 anyway, so it doesn't even make sense about why that they would actually want that, because I guess just so that way they have something to focus all their negativity on. But I mean, that's just been my feeling. Sorry for the rant on that one, but it's just something that I wanted to get off on my chest out there, that hopefully go through and make people stop and think about that. And what I said earlier, I wasn't just trying to make it like a Kriparian joke. I'm 100% serious that I have had some conversations with some people that have said that they don't work at Blizzard, but they have said that a lot of this stuff is only been in production for a couple of months since like July-ish.
Yeah, I've been mainly quiet this whole time because, I don't want to be an echo chamber or just filibustering on the same things you said, but I wholeheartedly agree. I feel like your analysis of the situation is spot on. The fact that players haven't been able to come to terms with reality, I think is a really telling sign of just the maybe level of maturity of some of the more vocal voices that I want to say are still passionate about Diablo and Diablo projects, but maybe just don't do a good job of censoring how they feel or of being able to mitigate the expectations. Because I think one of the biggest things that happened here was so much blame was heaped on Blizzard for hyping things up when I believe that Blizzard kept their level of hype at exactly what, relative to what we got, was exactly fine. Like they said, like, BlizzCon's going to be cool. And for all intents and purposes, it was.
Yeah.
You're able to play all three of the games that they currently have out. One version of which they gave you brand new content on the floor for the Necromancer. They revealed essentially their entire plan for 2017, which has tons of brand new features. They continue to show that they will support that game, and it also, for stuff that kind of went unsaid, is letting us know that, by the way, there's probably something else that's going on in the background, that whole unannounced project, but they're still going to support the game that is out there for you to play with new stuff. It's like you basically got the best of both worlds, but because it wasn't packaged as something that feels like an expansion, or I don't know like what they could have said or done outside of saying it was available last week and you just missed it, and even that probably would have been like, why didn't you tell us it was available? I don't know. They would have found something. So it's weird to me that it felt like a lot of positivity. Asking anyone that was actually in attendance at BlizzCon, I felt a lot of positivity from and a lot of good feelings. But then as soon as you turned on your phone and went to Reddit, it was just so much negativity, downvoting, etc. So I don't know. To some degree, I feel like it is a sort of like feverish small group that just wanted to drum up that sort of negative side of things. So I think it's important that there also is counterbalance from, you call it a rant, I call it just come to the table to have the other side of the discussion. We need to also balance it out with, some realism and some positivity.
Mm-hmm. And the big thing that this, like, I guess, finding out some of that information, on my end was just, if none of this was like in development until like halfway through this year, and then talking with some other people, that absolutely there wasn't really all that much on the development plate going into 2016. What was it that happened? What was it that we've talked for a while about Diablo being put in maintenance mode and such after patch 2.4. Was Diablo actually put into a maintenance mode, and then there was some sort of pushback from the developers that wanted to continue, continue on development of Diablo? There's some sort of unannounced project that, whatever that goes through and ends up being, and that it was going to take away from the development time, or they felt, well, we're gonna push the Team 3 funds to this unannounced project and take them away from Diablo 3 because it has no continuous income stream, and so they came up with the idea of the character pack as a kind of like a little mini DLC in order so that way it can generate a revenue stream so they can justify continuing development and updates and content for Diablo 3, that you won't have to pay for the patches, the item updates, new zones and creatures, that it'll all just be supported by, say, after the Necromancer will do, if it's successful, we'll get another class pack. And then that will just pay for all the other updates and stuff that they do in the background until the unannounced project gets into development in earnest, which is likely still a few years away from really getting all that big traction. But was there some sort of Was there some sort of like internal, back and forth discussion or shift or something like that, where like they kind of made a decision to wind down on development, and then there was a decision to bring it back, to bring it back up, and that's a story that I would really like to know. Unfortunately, probably never will, know the full details about what and went and happened in between, patch 2.4 and when they started going through and developing all of this new stuff that we saw. So
Right. Yeah, it could be maybe one of those, like, how they did the retrospective on, hey, we made that tough call for the auction house to be removed.
yeah,
It could be a future, two BlizzCons from now or something, like, hey, there was a time where D3 was really gonna maybe see its end of serious content development.
hmm
And, someone stepped up, like a Wyatt stepped up or a Joe stepped up. I was like, no, we have to put our foot down. We have ideas. Like, give us the support. We want to do it. So it would be curious to see. I definitely feel you on that one.
yeah, because I mean, if you talk to any of the Diablo developers, I mean, the developers, the artists, like the producers, everyone on that team is passionate about this game, and making sure that it goes through and continues. And they showed off all of this, awesome content. They showed a lot of brand new content coming to the game. New class, new zones, new cosmetic items. They're continuing with the redevelopment of old legendaries, maybe shake up the meta and such. New features, the armory. Like the story of the armory is amazing, because that was one of the developers. Was it who was it? That was he was like the saving grace in like every
I
story.
know. I know. I forget his name too.
Kenneth?
So I think that's right. Kenneth or Keith or something with
Yeah.
a K.
Damn it, I feel bad now. How he just went through and is like, this is a feature that should be in the game. Yeah, we're working on other stuff right now, so we really don't have the time to focus on it. We've got these things to go through and do. I was like, oh, okay. 6 o'clock comes around, people go, they leave to go home. Their work shift is over, and then he stays till 11 or midnight for like 2 weeks straight. So he basically like doubles his hours on salary, mind you. So he's not getting paid for any of it, to go and make a rudimentary version of the armory. He spends the 2 whole weeks going through and making it in his off time, on his personal time, to go and, because he is passionate about this game. This is a feature that needs to be in the game. There's a huge quality of life issue that's going on hand here, where people are actually going and rolling up new characters and having a completely separate set of gear and legendary gems, because it's faster to swap characters than it is to swap gear and gems and specs. So this is something that needs to happen, and he did it. And he got it to the point where it's like, oh, well, okay, you've done most of the legwork. Let's go back in there, and now let's tweak it, refine it, send it over to the artist. Let's get a UI for it and all that. And that is the type of passion that you have from these people that are working on Diablo 3. And I just think that it is so unfair of the amount of criticism that's been lobbied at them. They have all these cool things and this huge amount of passion that they pour into this game, and then they're met with just a wall of negativity, and just from like the numbers of copies of games, the copies of the game that have sold and all that, we know that this is a very extremely vocal, extreme minority, when it comes to the people. But when it's the only voice that you see, and those people that are going through the millions and millions of people that are still sitting around and enjoying the game, you'll never hear from. They're just sitting and playing. But one of the things that they would constantly mention, at BlizzCon, was that their concurrency numbers, the actual number of users that continue to play the game from season to season, are actually really good, really good, and would probably surprise most people. So, unfortunately, we have no idea, what those numbers are, but they talking with some of the developers on the convention floor, they said even like with season 8, with absolutely no new patch, no new content, and their numbers mostly were still like almost exactly the same as they were to season 7 and the seasons prior to that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate because I'm sure there's a lot that the developers themselves would like to say. And so I think that's kind of what you are channeling right now, trying to almost be like their voice because, we can speak a little more off cuff without repercussions or getting more gaff and feedback and ridiculousness from the community. Or maybe they will send us something. I don't know. If you actually, I would like to hear from anyone that does have either something to agree with or something to dispute with good reason. Like, please send it to us because I would love to have a continued conversation with, constructive criticism. And then maybe we can figure out a place to meet in the middle. But yeah, I think that in general, it is important for equal representation of the different sides of this thing because you said it, and I guess I don't need to repeat it, but just there's that vocal minority, and they shouldn't be the only voice that gets heard and gets seen. Because that's one of the things, not to go too long on this, but I just felt embarrassed at sometimes for our community because that was what was getting, to the front page of like like the entire front of Reddit. It's just this like negative downturn when that's not representative of how a lot of the majority of players feel.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com.
Yes.
Bring it on.
Yep. Send us send us your agreement or your disagreement. If your counter arguments to our counter arguments, to your counter arguments, and it'll make sense in there somewhere. Definitely I would love to see this like spark a conversation on Reddit or on the forums about some of the stuff that goes on, because I feel that that's one thing. There's a lot of people on these community sites that are going through and talking about it, but no one really. If you have the dissenting voice and a positive view, you got downvoted, and
yep.
You basically it's like your comment just was not seen by anybody. This is the downvote brigade. It's definitely not as bad now. It's things have kind of balanced out. I guess the hurt or the disappointment from the unrealistic expectations has passed. But yeah, I could just being one of those developers that put so much passion and time into this game, and then to just have everyone saying you're doing a horrible job. Me witnessing this happen, it was soul crushing. Let alone actually being the one that had the direct receiving end of all of that negativity.
Yeah, and again, it's not everyone. It's just what's being seen.
Yeah,
it's everyone that decides to pick up their pen to post or keyboard to post. Mm-hmm. But all right, I think that was fair. A good coverage of BlizzCon in sum. Was there anything else to close it out, or should we move on to our community feedback section?
No, I think that pretty much covers about all of it. I guess. Do we want to touch on the contest?
Yes, because that is the perfect bridge. All right.
Yes.
So, coming from BlizzCon, of course, one of the coolest things that we were able to see there was when you made your way through the demo area, tried out the Necromancer, or even some D1 and D2. One of your keepsakes was a challenge coin that Nevelistis happened to design for the event, and they are super awesome. I actually don't have any on hand, or I would show them again on cam.
I am doing it right now.
Aha, look at that. You read my mind.
Yep.
So you, again, can win one of these. We're giving away 2 with this contest, and it's a reminder of what we announced 2 weeks ago. Design a Necromancer skill. All you have to do is come up with the name of a skill and what it does. It can have numbers attached to it. It doesn't have to be incredibly specific. You can develop the runes if you want to. It can be a passive, an active. Sky's the limit. The more you have on it, then I guess the more we can imagine it and maybe like it better than some of the other ideas. We actually do have some cool entries so far, but we're definitely encouraging more of them. And you have 2 weeks from this episode before we close the bidding or the entry. I don't know why I said bidding, but before we close the entries. And I believe we time gated that at 5 p.m. Eastern on December 4th. which I think is 2 weeks from today.
I think it's
December 7th.
Yeah.
I always F it up. Oh my god.
Just
December
remember,
7th.
get out there and vote on November 28th. You have 5 more days to go and vote. Just
the
remember
warpath continues. Oh my god. So yes, December 7th, 5 p.m. is your last opportunity to get that email in. Again, Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. And you can mock it up if you want to. Art, assets, doesn't really matter. We just want your ideas.
Slacker Rice in chat is going through and saying, "Too bad I stay on the other side of the world." I'm for this contest, especially for those people out there that aren't in the U.S. I have no idea what like sweepstakes laws and stuff like that are, but I am more than willing to go and ship it worldwide.
There we go.
Yeah.
Worldwide winners.
Yeah.
Beware.
So, by all means, no matter where you are in the world, go ahead and enter. Because these things are awesome, and I would hate to exclude any of the listeners in the show from being able to go through and receive them.
I agree. Let's share the love.
Yeah, and again, mentioned this on last episode, but if you win one of these, because this is only the first contest, we're going to have multiple contests that will continue through the 20th anniversary of Diablo. We've got, I believe we have 6 in total to give away, and this is only the first 2 that we're going to be sending off. If you win one of these, or if you were at last year's BlizzCon, or this year's BlizzCon, I should say, the past BlizzCon, and you have one, next year's BlizzCon, you better bring them. You better bring them.
That's right.
And look up the history of challenge coins, because that's what these actually are. Nevelistus, she comes from like a army background, so she specifically went out and these were made by a challenge coin company. So go look up the history of challenge coins, and then you will know exactly what I mean when I say you better bring your challenge coin out to next year's BlizzCon. This shit's gonna get real.
I like it. All right, so you have your marching orders. Get those necro skills in. We want to read them, and then next show, December 7th, we will pick 2 winners and get those out to you. So good luck.
Mm-hmm. And just throwing it out there that we have gotten a couple entries, and there are some that have like pictures, and so anything that you can do to up the ante on this one, go all out, because the other people that are entering currently are. Don't let that stop you from wanting to go through and enter in, but get creative. If you can't go through, you're not good at graphics or anything like that, then get descriptive with words. Go through and just fully flesh it out with how the skill, all the different rune takes on it, and talk about like the history and the lore behind it. It's necromancer, it's in lore, so you'll definitely get my vote if you go into that. Tell me a tale.
There you go.
Yeah, and so I guess that does bring us on to our community feedback section. And so we want to go through and hit up some emails here.
Which yes, indeed.
I had all of my emails open, and then periodically throughout the show, I'm like, why do I have so many tabs open? Let me close some of these.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah. So I did the derpy thing, and I did in fact close all of my emails. But I'm gonna go through. I think I've ranted enough to at least get me on my first couple, so that way I can go through and start this. See what I did there? It was obfuscation.
I loved it.
Making you think that I wasn't like scrambling to go through and that I knew what I was doing. I was actually prepared for this.
I was very thankful for you doing that.
I'm glad that you were thankful. I'm thankful you're thankful. Sorry.
Part 2.
Sorry. What a dick. Our first email here comes in from Juno Reactor, who we again met at this year's BlizzCon. It was awesome to go through and talk with him. And I think this first one we had read on the show previously. I'll skim through it real quick. But he sent over because with the name Juno Reactor, obviously he enjoys a particular band called Juno Reactor, who I also love. If you've watched any of my streams, it's pretty much the only music that I have playing during my streams. Really awesome stuff. Definitely enjoy it. A friend of his does a couple remixes for Juno Reactor songs on one of their old community forums, Reactor League. And so he went to go through and listen to some of them, and they were really awesome. So definitely, thank you for that. And then he also just recently sent over 2 more remixes, which I also went through, listened to, and were pretty awesome. But he goes through and starts off with, I have 2 more remixes from Joe for you. I think that you'll like both of these. Also, another member from Reactor League site, Mike, has a really cool YouTube site, still puts together all sorts of videos for Juno Reactor music. You can check his YouTube page. It's youtube.com/users/avfoundry if you want to go through and check those out. And then he also has done some interviews that he has on there, as well as put together a Reactor League fan DVD, which contains all of the official music videos that the fan site over at Reactor League had put together. And then he also did talk about more Diablo-related stuff. It was nice meeting both of you again at BlizzCon. It was really nice just to hang out with you guys and listen to various members of the Diablo team. I know I don't talk too much. I wanted to give a shout-out to all the people working on Diablo. All of them were really nice to talk to, and it was very inspiring to hear how much each person working on the game not only loves playing this game, but also cares about putting all the effort into making it. I think one of the stories that really impressed me was when Wyatt Chang told us during the story time that a certain Diablo developer, I forgot who, but so did we, would stay after work to find a way to make the armory work. It was really inspiring to hear how a member of the Diablo team would put in effort that goes beyond what is needed. Another story is that this sort of hilarious, insane, was when I was told there was an Easter egg on the Diablo shirt. The shirt is the red Diablo shirt that was on sale during this year's BlizzCon. Sorry for the bad pick. But the hint was using the letters from Caldeum, Stonyfield, and Wortham. When I was told this, my reaction was, what the fuck? And I guess this confirms that the next character class after the Necromancer will be the Cow. Have a great show. Sadly I did not have the picture, but let me see if I can go through and pull it up here real quick. I'm gonna go and save it real fast.
Real quick.
Yep. So let's see. Teaser.
Gotta love these guys with continuing the whole there is no cow level.
Yeah.
Cow level.
Which is one of those things. It's like whenever the cow level came up in conversation, no matter which developer it was, they're like, "What are you talking about? What cow level?" There is no cow level, and it's like we're never gonna do a cow level. But here we go. I got it up on stream right now. And what it is if you go and you look at on the right hand column, it says Caldeum, Stonyfield, Wortham. It's cow.
Mind blown.
Yeah, when you go and then if you continue down, the Loot Ghislaine, Leorix Manor, Survivors Enclave, New Tristram, Cal
level.
Yeah.
Oh snap! That's amazing.
Yeah. So there you have it. The cow level. Yeah.
That attention to detail though.
Yep.
I didn't even see that. Well played, people. Well played. I wonder who was responsible for that one. I love it.
But that just goes to show you the people on these teams, they really do enjoy and love their games.
Oh yeah. That's what I was talking about. That level, that attention to detail. Like nothing is normal. There is no just like put a door there. They're like, we're designing this thing and also adding this intricate design to it, or this hidden joke, or this Easter. Like there's always that extra thought. It's crazy. I love it.
Yep. So thank you, Juno Reactor, for going through and sending in those emails. Definitely appreciate it.
Definitely. All right, and we've got more from friends here. So this one comes in from Eddie. And he says, "Sup, fellas? I've been listening to Westmarch Workshop since the very beginning and enjoyed every moment of it. In 1997, I started playing Diablo and I fell in love with the game. I have a D&D background since 1987. I'm a 48-year-old Diablo gamer and married with 2 daughters, 3 years and 15 years, and they both game. And their mom isn't too happy about that." Smiley face. "I work overnight, and that's when I listen to your podcast and others, but I find that I can relate to you two guys a lot. I am an African American born in Germany, and I played a D&D. I also painted many figurines 9-ball back in the day."
Nice. Then just I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, not in Germany, but I first started playing D&D in the Netherlands.
Oh, look at that. "Play mostly after work, in the morning, and pretty much all night on my off nights, Wednesdays and Saturdays. I would like very much to join your clan if you would have me." And he supplies his battle tag and says, "Thanks again for your podcast and have fun at BlizzCon." So you can see, by the way, we're still catching up on our emails here. But I do believe he is now a member of our clan. I've seen him out and about on Twitter and all sorts of good stuff as well. So thank you for that email. Appreciate that. And for anyone else out there too, I know we usually mention it in our outro. So if you skip the outro, you might not know, but we still have lots of spots for the clan because, some inactivity has happened. So if you do plan on needing a home for season 9 or even right now, feel free to hit us up. The Blizz Pro clan.
Moving on, our next email here. This one comes in from Torty Fu. Which have I seen him in chat tonight?
I did see him.
Okay.
Earlier, at least.
Yeah, wanted to make sure he was still there. I know he normally pops into both of our streams. He's always there, so we definitely appreciate these emails from our longtime listeners. Sup, fellas? And I should also preface this one that it is. This was sent in when I had done the solo episode prior to BlizzCon, asking for people to send in their predictions that they thought were going to be at BlizzCon. And so this is the email he sent in, entitled "Inaccurate Prediction." Sup, fellas? So writing this after the leaked Necromancer images, so even less likely these predictions will come true, but I will share my thoughts and hopes anyways. I was originally hoping for the announcement of Warcraft 4, as StarCraft 2 is winding down now that all 3 parts have been released. This seems a potential possibility. But then began to wonder if the new project was maybe still an RTS, but set in the Diablo universe. They have 3 protagonists, angels, demons, and Nephilim. And I'm sure there's a lot of lore in the Eternal Conflict that could be used for some of the epic strategy battles. I know I would definitely play this game if released. Would you like this addition to the universe? It could be interesting new direction to add to the franchise. That one is definitely a pretty interesting idea if they were to go and do it. It's like because they always have like that one game per genre. I don't think that it's a design philosophy of theirs. But what if they were to go back and to the days of StarCraft and Warcraft where they had multiple games within the same genre? Yeah,
could be an interesting thing,
like a Diablo card game or a Diablo RTS.
I'd play it. I'd be down. I mean, they could also one of the things that if they do perhaps have 2 entries, same genre, they could always try and put a different spin on it, right? Because one of the things people like to point to is, well, you have 2 RPGs. You have an action RPG and a massive online RPG, whatever the MMO stands for. So you hit kind of, some similarities but differences.
Yeah, and I mean they did a very good job between StarCraft and Warcraft 3. If it was when it was just like StarCraft and Warcraft 2, there was a lot of overlap, a lot of similarities in how they played. But Warcraft 3, they did a very different spin on the RTS genre that made it very different from the way StarCraft played because it was a hero-based game, which of course then led into Dota and MOBAs in general from that point as kind of like a launching point of refining that particular strategy where it was an RTS game, but it all centered and revolved around your one main character, your one hero, and everything else was about propping them up.
Right. Yeah, so it could. There's some. If it would happen, I'm sure they would find a way to make it different enough to make it a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, our next email here. This one comes in from Torty Fu. Which have I seen him in chat tonight? I did see him. Okay. I just wanted to make sure he was still there. And he supplies his battle tag and says, "Thanks again for your podcast and have fun at BlizzCon." And he says, "Sup, fellas? I've been listening to Westmarch Workshop since the very beginning and enjoyed every moment of it. In 1997, I started playing Diablo and I fell in love with the game. I have a D&D background since 1987. I'm a 48-year-old Diablo gamer and married with 2 daughters, 3 years and 15 years, and they both game. And their mom isn't too happy about that." So word. And we actually have another email continuing in a similar fashion. I guess this is also in reply to your solo episode with some hype and speculation. And this one comes from Lion Sword. He says, "What is up, fellas?" Now known as Woof. All right, we might roll with that one. We'll see. See if it catches on. With BlizzCon just around the corner, I thought I'd share my thoughts around Diablo in general and what to expect going forward. Also, hype! As a longtime Diablo player, I harken back to the days of spellbooks, literal spellbooks from which you learn spells, and cringing every time I hear the phrase, "ah, fresh meat." That moment when your character finally learns the town portal spell, glorious. Where have those moments gone? I would postulate the current state of Diablo has less of those moments than in games of the past. In D1, I don't remember a lot of specific items, but when something awesome dropped, it was like heaven opened up and gave us a gift to fight the demons. In D2, literally every item that dropped could be an upgrade, and hunting rune words was an enjoyable experience. Finding set and unique items was exciting, even if most of the time they were unusable. So let's fast forward to the launch of Diablo 3. Every item you found could be an upgrade for sure, or you could just grind gold to buy the perfect item on the auction house. Thankfully, in my opinion, Blizzard did away with the AH and implemented Loot 2.0. A great idea, and I love the frequency at which I find loot, or do I? At first I thought Loot 2.0 was excellent and finding gear really wasn't a chore. However, have gear drop rates gone too far? For Season 8 I did an experiment. I leveled a Crusader with some friends, did the seasonal journey steps to get my Hadrig's gift, and then I set that Crusader aside and started leveling a monk. Monk for life. I have found that I am actually enjoying the initial loot hunt much more without the free set. I'm running around in the random legendaries I've found and have since put together a couple 2-set bonuses, but every time I see a green star on my screen I get excited. Now I'm no expert on gaming, I'm just a regular dude who plays games and enjoys them, but if whatever iteration of Diablo could go back to trying to capture those exciting moments, I think that would be a really good step in the right direction. Whew, that section took longer than expected, so on to the hype. Let's see. So far this week, we've got Necro in D3 confirmed, D4 confirmed because you can't have Necro and WD at the same time, and D2 HD confirmed because that's where Necro is. Did I miss anything? I don't know what to expect for Friday. Like Leviathan and Nineball, I've tried to keep my expectations low so as not to disappoint myself, but I want to believe. Nice. The Necromancer is coming to D3 because I really enjoyed Necromancer in D2, not as much as Frozen Orb, of course, and because a friend of mine also loved Necro in D2. It was the only class he played. So I know he'd play more Diablo with me if he could be a Necro. With those thoughts aside, I really have a hard time believing an expansion for D3 is coming. I full-on bought into the thought that Blizzard was pulling stuff out of this second expansion and releasing it in patches, see Knight's Cube, and maybe they're still doing that. But can they really release a new class with just a patch? I don't know. I want to believe. I truly do, but I'm not sure if I really believe it. I guess I'll find out Friday. And final note, this section is just for Nineball as it relates to lore, and Leviathan, well, lore? Question mark? Hey, I know some lore now. I buffed myself on some lore.
You made me proud.
That's right. So, question, where the crap is Lilith and Inarius? Last I knew, Mephisto took Inarius after the Sin War, but have we heard from him since? If Mephisto was then soul-stoned, Haradrim pre-D1, and then released, and then soul-stoned again D2, who exactly is keeping Inarius? I feel like this was all laid out in the Book of Cain, but I'm having a hard time remembering. Anyway, point was, if they released another expansion, they have a ton of opportunity here with either Lilith or Inarius or both, as they were the creators of the Nephilim in the first place, and now that the term Nephilim has become mainstream, I think going back to the creators of said Nephilim makes a lot of sense. Finally, do any of us think Mendelin is still alive? If Necros are truly coming back, he has to be involved, right? For those that haven't read the Sin War, you need to do so. It rivals the Thrawn trilogy as greatest works of fiction. And that's all for now. Sorry for the book. Enjoy BlizzCon. Lion Sword. All right.
Okay, well, in order to go through and answer that one, Lilith is a bit easier of an answer. I guess this is spoilers if you haven't read the Sin War trilogy, but when the Nephilim were first born, the angels and the demons fought one another about how the Nephilim should be used. Should they be allowed to continue to live, or should they be completely wiped out? And when they went and started killing the Nephilim, Lilith went crazy and killed everyone else. She killed all of the angels, all of the demons that were on Sanctuary, except for the Nephilim, and except for Inarius. And the Nephilim, because she didn't really love them, but she saw them as an army and an opportunity with which to win the eternal conflict. You go back in, say, screw you to both heaven and hell, I'm taking over everything, and use the Nephilim as her own personal army. Inarius saw this and was saddened, and, because not just the fact that they created Sanctuary to escape from the eternal conflict, and the fact that she wants to now go through and re-enter it, but he himself sees the Nephilim as an abomination, but he can't bring himself to kill them. And when Lilith went through and killed all of the other angels and the demons and kind of betrayed everything that they had fought and worked for with Sanctuary, he couldn't allow her to continue to be, but he also could not bring himself to kill her. So he banished her to the Abyss, which is kind of like the nothingness in between, the places that exist. So I guess in like our universe, you can kind of think of it like the space in between like planets and such, where you have your different planes of existence. You have like Sanctuary, Pandemonium, Heaven, Hell. Well, the Abyss is everything that's in between. And it's just nothingness. So he banishes her there, and she does eventually escape and put forth, all of the events in the Sin War into motion. But it took her thousands of years to find a way to escape the Abyss. And at the end of the Sin War, he finds her and he puts her back, in the jar, so to speak. And this time, he puts more effort into it, so that way she would hopefully be banished forever, this time. So there is the possibility. She escaped from that imprisonment once before. She could potentially do it again. For Inarius himself, he is kind of offered up as a peace offering by the Anguirus Council to the Primevals, in order to when the Anguirus Council and the Primevals were making the discussions about what to do with Sanctuary at the end of the Sin War, when they wanted to go through and kind of like have a peace offering and call a truce and put Sanctuary off limits, they demanded Inarius as like a token to go through and say that this is your agreement. And from there, Mephisto tortured Inarius. Obviously not just for what he did to Lilith, because Lilith was Mephisto's daughter, but the roles that he played and the death of one of his other children, during the events of the book. And they actually talk about this going back even further in some of the lore in Diablo 1, where Inarius is held in a prison of mirrors, where as you read the Sin War, you kind of get the feeling that even though Inarius was not like an archangel, he was not on the Anguirus Council, but he kind of had the feeling, well, this guy's the archangel of vanity. Like he is the most. Inarius is the most important thing in Inarius's life. He like rivals Kanye West in his levels of pride and vanity. And so he's imprisoned in this room of mirrors where he is constantly tortured and disfigured with all these hooks. Obviously this was in D1 before they had created the concept of the angels being just sound and light manifest inside of pseudo armor, but they were saying that they had chains that were disfiguring his flesh, and that his followers were also taken and imprisoned. And so, when we were going and doing our D2 stream, when we killed the the blacksmith and the rogues barracks, when you had to get the Herodric Mollis, that particular mob type is explained in Diablo 1 as being it used to be an angel. That used to be a follower of Inarius, but because of all the torture twisting their bodies, that they were turned into that. And so that is Inarius's fate. He's still down there in hell somewhere being tortured and flayed apart.
Wow, fascinating.
Yes.
That lore, though.
Yep.
And I knew all of that and 100% agree with that statement. Yeah. It actually was covered in the Book of Cain, so he was correct in noting that in the email.
And you also actually you asked me that very similar question at BlizzCon.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious for their fates as well.
Yeah. Well,
I actually will be curious too. Something that we can sort of now know, in light of BlizzCon happening is, of course, what's it called? The realm of the Temple of the Firstborn is, the birthplace of the Nephilim. So maybe we'll get some lore books and things there for further info on Lilith and Inarius.
oh yeah, I'm definitely interested in it. And Mikey, yes, that Inarius is the inspiration of the name of my Death Knight in WoW.
What's the
I
name?
know you knew that. Huh?
What is the name?
Inarius.
Oh, it's Inarius. Well, there you go.
There you go.
All right.
Nine, you need to do a lore segment on every show. I would love to, but I fear I would probably bore too many people. But yeah, I guess going through and continuing on with our next email here. This one comes in from. Oh,
wait. He had multiple questions in this email though.
Oh, I must have missed it.
One of them we can hit very quickly because he was talking about what to expect at BlizzCon.
Oh yes.
And what we know now. He was saying, could they just release a new class with a patch? Yes.
Oh, true. Yeah.
They can and they will.
They did.
So they did that. They do that. So yeah, I know it definitely. This was one of the things we were kind of touching on, very quickly, that it's a break from format. This definitely is something that is outside of what we thought was potentially possible, because it was like, oh, it has to be in a box. They're gonna package it and sell it. So like expansion doesn't seem likely, but in a way they got around that with this character pack. DLC is, we're kind of borrowing the term from the console friends. So yeah, they can and are trying it, and I think if we see success, it will not be the last.
Yeah, because I mean, that is kind of like the question we talk about. It is, I guess, kind of breaking from tradition, but when you look at it, there really isn't honestly all that much tradition there. And why should you be tied to certain development practices and what you do? It's it's going and mixing things up that makes things more interesting and exciting.
It's 2016, people.
Yeah. Get with it.
Right. And then his first question, which we're tackling last, because that's the way we roll here, was something that we actually, you, myself, and Big Daddy Den discussed on the kind of like day zero of BlizzCon, was the whole idea of like, have drop rates gone too far? Mm-hmm. Big Daddy Den was very passionate about this idea of like, create a, maybe a separate server or a separate game mode or something, call it like a hard mode or a legacy mode, where the drop rates sort of return to what they were previous to Loot 2.0 when things got very generous, just because it really does feel like as soon as you hop into a new season, you're a well-informed player, so you know exactly what steps to take to get your Hadrig's gift, and you kind of feel silly to not take those steps, so you do it, and you do shortcut your journey towards completing your build, completing your gear sets, because it's so easy once you realize, oh yeah, I can take advantage of this resource, that resource, the cube does this, I get my weapon, I target it this way, I target my blood shards that way. It's very easy to play this game efficiently and be done quickly. So I agree. I think that the game has gotten very generous, but for good reasons, because we are, the people who are probably listening to this podcast and us putting it on, and Big Daddy Den being so involved, streaming the game for as many years as he has, we're all very much in the know. But for your commonplace player, the same people who weren't finishing sets in an entire season, the same people who were having difficulty moving from torment to torment, these things have occurred essentially for them, and they're a far bigger target audience than we are. So I think, if Blizzard's looking at, how many people can we affect the quality of life for, they're probably going to try and hit the biggest slice of the pie. So this goes in for them. Maybe it lowers our quality of life because our chase doesn't feel as fulfilling, but all these other people get to experience builds and setups that they probably never have before. So, tough to figure out where to cut things for the middle ground, but a mode for it, or maybe just a season where it returns to something like that, could be an interesting experiment. I just know there always is that idea of how many ways do you want to split the community, right?
Mm-hmm. And that is, that kind of comes down to it. The World of Warcraft developers have talked about having like these pristine servers that not rolled back to a previous expansion, but all of the things that they've done to speed up leveling, the increased XP gains, the reduced requirements for leveling that help speed you from 1 to 110 would be removed. no character boosts or anything of that nature. So that way you have the game, as you play through the game at the speed it was intended to be played at every level as you continue up. That could be something that they might have an idea for with Diablo. This is like that's like the big thing from Path of Exile, that they could go through and attempt to emulate with having those special seasons, a season with a twist.
Yeah.
Let's go back and have a season, with no sets, or a season that has, that doesn't have the torment buff for drop rates. You just have it's the normal drop rate. You don't have that compounding 15% increased drop rate with every torment level as you go up, or greater rift level.
Yeah, that's actually something I posed as a Twitter question earlier. I think it was this week. Is it a matter of the developers maybe not being interested in those ideas? Because, I think early on there was kind of that idea of like experimental seasons tossed around just as hey, it could potentially happen. But then we never really saw any fruit come from that tree. I'm wondering if it's just they kind of backed off of that and they're not interested, or is Diablo 3 itself potentially tough to modify it that way? So, like, can they actually do it, right? Can they turn off drop rates specifically in a season and modify it so that it doesn't affect other things? I just wonder how much control they have. I wish there was some insight to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll see.
Maybe. All right. Did we cover? Oh, there was one other question. Did Mendelin is he still alive?
Yes.
Probably not. Even though he was a necromancer, and from what we kind of see in the lore, the necromancers themselves tend to seem to be able to unnaturally extend their lives a little bit. They themselves still are not immortal, and it has been a very, very long time. So he is more than likely dead by this point. So yeah, probably won't be seeing him involved with the necromancer in any way, shape, or form. I would like to see some more with Zale if they bring him into it. I do wonder if not so much the Temple of the Firstborn, but I wonder if the Shrouded Moors are going to have anything to do with the necromancer, because it seems to be it's going to be in Act 2. Probably will kind of be situated in between the deserts around Chaldeum and the jungles there of the further eastern Kyrgyzstan, which is where the necromancers themselves live and haunt around. So we might see some lore and stuff that dive into the necromancers, but at this point we don't know. We know less about the Shrouded Moors than anything else. We saw some concept art, and it is some more. They're definitely going for kind of a European style there. It, of course, being Moors, it has a lot of things that have those little it incites memories or thoughts of like Stonehenge. They've got kind of like some like werewolf-looking creatures and some more like fantasy, like European folklore type beasts that they kind of showed off there. So yeah. I guess with that, was there anything else, or shall we move on? We spent a lot of time on that one.
We did. It was a big one, though.
Yeah,
so.
it was. This one comes in from Paula. Sup, fellas? Third time I'm writing to you, and as always, sorry for my bad English. Like the previous two, this one's a bit long. Not terribly long, not in my opinion. I would like to start by saying a few things about my experience with seasonal play so far. I have played every single season and always with a different class, but after a week or so I would get bored and move on to another game until the beginning of another season. This year I'm trying something else, and it's working so far. I made my own clan, and constantly boosting people and helping them with the seasonal journey and gear farming in general. I'm playing the DH Shadow set, and it's super fun to play. Mowing through monsters with ease on Torment 11 and Greater 55s in groups makes me feel super OP, and I'm meeting new people in the process. I'm also leveling a Crusader to get the conquest for the 55 clear of the 6 different sets. Don't know why it didn't register me doing a 55 of all the DH sets, though. Boosting people and playing with them is keeping me interested in the game for longer than any of the previous seasons. I hope I will hit Paragon 800 for the first time this season. Now, something about BlizzCon, like I mentioned on Twitter, thanks for your coverage. It was very useful as I was able to instantly follow everything Diablo related. The way they are introducing the Necromancer to the game is the best thing ever. Blizzard will get to make more money, and that will motivate them to make more content, and we will get cool new class to play. I think the Necromancer pack won't cost more than $10 to $15, and I do hope that we see this kind of implementation become a yearly thing for Blizzard. What do you guys think we can expect for them in the future? Also, I hope to see your stream more often on your separate channels. I'm really bored sometimes of no one good to watch, as I am in Serbia and my internet is not good enough for me to stream myself. Believe me, I have tried. Thanks, Powa.
Well, there we go. I think both of us have fulfilled a little bit of that second part. Been streaming more.
Yes, I need to double down on my own efforts to go through and do that. I started after BlizzCon, and then this past week is just kicking my ass. Actually getting up there and like streaming. By the time I would be like situated in streaming, it's like, you're already like streaming. I'll just play and watch you.
All right. What can we see in the future? Druid. I feel Druid.
It is definitely the most vocal outcry at the moment for, it's like, oh, you're releasing the Necromancer. What about the Druid? I want the Druid.
It's a weird word after you say it a few times.
Yep.
You know what's odd for me is I think I actually have 0 hours in the Druid from D2. So I think I literally have never played the Druid, but I feel like supercharged behind the Druid camp. Like, I want it to be a thing. I don't know why. I don't know why I care, but I feel like it would be a good addition.
It's you're sucked into that passion,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the cause.
Yeah, my ex used to play like nothing but the Druid. So even though I've played very little of the class, it's something that I have I know a lot or quite a bit about, have some experience with.
Word up. Also, lore. I don't know if we talked about this because I know I talked to you about it in person, but people were like, well, if they put the Druid in, then like what is it going to be? So I know from reading my books that the Druids are actually like a offset of the Barbarians. So they would be a strength class when they come in because it would make sense since their origins are from the days of like Bolkathos and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Lore bomb dropped, son.
Yeah, it definitely has some sense there. It could also be one of those ones where, I don't know, it makes sense for like I don't know how they would do a dual main stat class.
Yeah, we're getting complicated.
Yeah, maybe they could just take stats from either strength or int in order to up their damage.
People going on that, but kind of tangenting. People have also been wondering if they would ever do another dual resource class. Like, people are saying maybe the Necro was a potential missed opportunity for it, with like some using their health maybe as a potential resource.
Yeah, that's actually something that I do see them potentially doing is, maybe doing some things that, because just from what we've seen in some of the books of like manipulating like life force, using like their own like health as a pseudo mechanic, but they do have a kind of that they like corpse explosion is just the beginning. They definitely want to do a lot with enemy corpses as a type of resource for necromancers.
True story, yeah. So that essentially might turn into their second resource. Mm-hmm. Word. Was there anything else in that email? I feel like we missed something.
No, I think that about wraps it up. I think it's like before we can really expect what we can see or expect from them is how it plays out with the Necromancer. They've got a lot on their plate for 2017. 2 new subzones, the Armory Challenge Rifts, which we've not really even talked about this entire episode, which are an awesomely amazing feature. There's a lot of the things that they're throwing on the table right now, particularly with how well the Necromancer does, how Challenge Rifts play out, that could open up a lot of other things that I don't think they're planning too far ahead of themselves at the moment, and it's going to have to wait to see how these features pan out. And of course, there's always the wild card of the unannounced feature, unannounced project in the background, and what that may or may not turn into.
Definitely. I'm saying right now, by the way, put an earmark in next episode for a deeper dive on some challenge rifts because I would love to talk more about that.
All right. Type it into the show notes now.
It's happening.
It's happening.
All right. Next up is an email from Daniel. It's a combo email because there is some item of the week stuff going on here, but then there's also a question. He says, oh God, he says, Havsadur. Sup, fellas, in Danish. I'm pretty sure that's not how you say that, but there's like interesting accentation marks. There's like a degreesum. Anyways, first of all, thanks for still making the best show of my week. I followed you since the very first show, and I love it. I'm on my first hardcore season, and I like it. I see the differentiation there, by the way. I died at Paragon 80, and I lost my free set. So now I play a 3-piece Blackthorn, 2-piece Akon, Phalanx / Shield Throw build. But can you guys tell me if my Phalanx Bowman can trigger Marinai? And then he says he also found a new amulet, the Eye of Etlich. It is not the best, but still better than my Ancient Hellfire. So which one to use? I assume we will talk about that in items of the week.
Oh, that
but,
will.
Excellent. I actually, while Nineball was talking about lore, in case I looked distracted, I was testing this out in the game. And you cannot trigger Marinai through Bowman. Which is interesting because I think they actually do trigger other gems. For instance, I think Pain Enhancer and Gem of Efficacious Toxin can be triggered through your Bowman. So I'm not sure why there's a difference there. It might be something I have to dig into a little bit more. But I know there is this whole thing of like procking procs, and they're not necessarily proc because they are a skill, but I think it might have to do something with the fact that your activation is pressing the Phalanx button and then the Bowmen pop out, so their hits aren't necessarily counting as you making a hit because you're not necessarily enacting an action.
There are very few effects which proc off of pets. Most pets will have a proc coefficient of 0.
Right. That's a good point. So yeah, hopefully that helps you make some gem choices. I guess no Marinai if you're going to go with your Bowman. Or maybe some dot gems.
Yeah. I know that we do have a couple emails left, but looking at the time and how long the episode's gone on, I don't know if we want to maybe save those for next episode.
Yes, especially because the next one is a little lengthy, so let's table those.
Yeah, and it's one of the ones that we got the email as well as you can see I've tweeted a little bit about it as from Vernon, who went and sent in like a Witch Doctor build, and not just like that Witch Doctor build. I want to talk about like the experiments that he's been doing, for this season, and I want to give that some more time. And just since we're running long, I don't think that we'd have the opportunity to do that proper. And then also, JHB, your email would, definitely something that we would want to spend some time to talk and discuss. So we'll table those two for now. We will definitely address them first next week. And with that, we are going to transition to items of the week. We will. I don't know whether we'll make it better or make it worse with that one. But we will do something with that transition. I promise. Probably worse. But for going into items of the week from Malden, he went and sent in this Dead Man's Legacy, which this one came with 864 dexterity, 962 vitality, a perfect 20% attack speed, a perfect critical hit chance increased by 10%, it has re-rolled to reduce the cooldown of all skills by 7%, a perfect increases multi-shot damage by 100%, a chance on hit to immobilize, and then the legendary property of multi-shot hits enemies below 55% health twice.
Oh, I think I remember this one, because wasn't part of the email is like, you'll see why I made a terrible mistake, and there's no discipline. The secondary wasn't re-rolled.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yep. Which I guess is like one of those ones. What was the stat that you switched the reduces cooldown to?
Right.
Yeah, and also depending upon how much other discipline you have, the damage increase could potentially be offset by having crit on a ring or crit damage on a ring, respectively.
Yeah, but I feel like missing an entire discipline roll is pretty impactful.
Yeah, it is true, but it is an additive increase to the rest of the multi-shot damage. So even having like say 12 for the extra couple 100%, when you're putting that on top of maybe already having an extra 3,000%, isn't terribly that much.
Yeah.
Versus
Sure.
that reduced cooldown putting an extra 6% crit on a ring or something like that. So I mean there definitely is some arguments out there that it may or may not be the end all be all. But ideally you would have all of this with discipline on it. I definitely agree with you on that.
Yes.
Yeah. Continuing on, we have Fyrus sent in another Dead Man's Legacy. This one is a non-ancient, but it rolled with 728 dexterity, 656 vitality, increases attack speed by 20%, critical hit chance by 10, has been re-rolled for reduces the cooldown of all skills by 5, 99% increase multi-shot damage, monster kills grant additional experience, and multi-shot hits enemies below 53% health twice. So we have slightly weaker Dead Man's Legacy on that one, but again, no discipline. No discipline roll on that one.
Discipline. Yep.
Continuing on, this is one that you had mentioned that was sent in by Daniel. His Eye of Etlich, compared with his Hellfire Amulet. And this one he had just found this Eye of Etlich. It is non-ancient, but it has holy damage increase. Holy skills deal 20% more damage. Critical hit damage increased by 100%. Has been re-rolled to increase critical strike chance by 10%. Has arcane resist and reduces the damage from ranged attacks by 34%, as well as the socket. Now, if you're not using that additional fifth passive from your Hellfire Amulet, that is a beast of an amulet.
So I just had to look up renewal because that is not in the meta at all. It is a passive where whenever you successfully block, you gain 16,093 life. Yeah, you can definitely drop this Hellfire for the Eye of Etlich because that thing is insane. That's like any Condemned Crusader's dream, any Blessed Shield build's dream. Like that is, if it's a holy skill, that amulet is top notch. And the fact that your Hellfire isn't the most useful, I would say go with the Eye of Etlich. Especially plus you're getting that huge reduced damage from range. Mm-hmm. Pretty tasty.
Very nice. And then I believe our final item of the week here is sent in by Scary Space Beast. This one was sent to us on Twitter. It is an ancient furnace. Yes. It sends it in hoping I hope I got this in time with hashtag items of the week. Week. And this bad boy, as will always show every single ancient furnace that's sent in, because it is tradition, as is tradition in accordance with the prophecy. An ancient furnace that clocks in at 4,103 DPS. It was rolled with 9% increased weapon damage, 1,408 dexterity, 35,000 life per hit, the secondary property of increased monster XP on kill, and increases damage against elites by 50%.
Good old ancient furnace.
Yep, gotta love it. You can't. It's like you can't go wrong with a furnace, right? Right.
Even if you could.
Yep. I mean,
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
When in Rome.
I mean, you don't think that the furnace will go the way of the scorn, will you?
We'll wait for expansion 3 before that happens.
Yep.
Or patch 1.1.
Yeah, patch 1.1 when they add in PvP.
PvP.
Yep. And with that, I do believe that brings us to the end of the community section and the end of the show. And with that, if you liked everything that you saw on the show, or some of the things that you don't like, as we mentioned earlier, we were talking about our feelings for the post BlizzCon negativity. If there's anything that you want to comment on about what we talked on the show, things that we might have gotten wrong, please feel free to drop us a line. Our email is westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Also, if you want to send in your own comments, your play tips, or your items of the week, you can also reach us there. Again, that is westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. If you want to stay in touch with the show, you can follow us on Twitter. We're at the WM Workshop, so that way you can go through, tweet with us, get the show schedule or any updates about streams that we might go and do. We stream here on twitch.tv/BlizzPro every other Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can also see most of the topics that we covered here tonight and more on our website, diablo.blizzpro.com. We are even in-game. We are the BlizzPro clan, where you can go through, join up with us, play. Even though we talk about hardcore a lot, we are definitely both a hardcore and a normal community, so you don't have to worry. Whatever your play style is, you can go in, hop in, have fun. If you don't want to leave your current clan or your current friends, by all means you can join the in-game community. Just do a search for Westmarch Workshop. We do have lots of free open spots within the clan at the moment, so feel free to go hop on by. You can also go and chat with us as we go and do more streams and community-involved events. You can find us at discord.gg/BlizzPro. And while you're going there and talking about the Discord server and our Twitch channel, don't be afraid to go through and check out all the other content that we do on the BlizzPro network. Here on our Twitch stream, that you can definitely go through and catch all of our other podcasts. Sundays is Well Met, our Hearthstone podcast. Tuesdays is the Heroes of the Storm Power Hour. Wednesdays is, of course, us with Westmarch Workshop. And Thursdays is Payload, our Overwatch podcast. So feel free to go through, check those out. Hit follow if you like our content. And if you'd like to support us and all the rest of our shows, as well as cover some of the costs for hosting the podcast and our website, feel free to go ahead and hit the subscribe button down there to go through and help us all out. You can also follow us individually. I am at 9ballgamer on Twitter, and you can follow me at twitch.tv/9ball if you'd like to go through and see me from stream to time. And my co-host Leviathan here is at LeviathanD3 on Twitter, and you can follow his stream, which has been mostly nightly now, I must say, is twitch.tv/Leviathan111. And with that, I do believe it brings us to a close. Is there any final comments that you'd like to make before we close it out?
I'd just like to say thank you for everything that you do. You make hanging out here on Wednesday nights a real treat.
Why, thankful. I am thankful for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.